Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 out of New Orleans. It's been a week, folks. I don't know how you guys are doing, but it's been a week, and I feel like my brain and my mouth want to go in two different directions, and it might be painful for someone if I'm not careful. Aw, thanks, Laura Lee. I appreciate you, and thank you for taking that fast call today and keeping me a little bit grounded. And it's funny, I appreciate that you say that I look gorgeous, because to be honest with you, I thought, oh, I got this cute little haircut. Look how, and then, no, I feel like I got caught in a windstorm of some kind. It's not Sandra Bullock cute how I thought it was looking. It looks more like I walked into a windstorm. Craziness. Thanks for being here, Contessa, Michelle. Thank you so much. And Michelle, I did receive your parcel, and to be honest, I stick all that stuff off to the side because I get so excited that people thought of me, but I wait until like my actual birthday so that I can open it up. So I have that kind of self-restraint. But if I had smelled chocolate, I might have cracked it open. But I've got it sitting there. Hi, Joanna. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to bring, I'm so grateful. I'm going to bring my guest out right away. Hi, James. Thanks for being here. My scheduled guest, due to health reasons, was not able to participate. So if you sign up for my newsletter and I send out, the upcoming guests that are going to be on Spirit Switchboard, we had a shift and change in plans because that's life, right? We've got to be able to go with the flow. And stepping in is our wonderful network manager. She is co-producer and co-host of the Outer Realm, and you may know her from Canada's Most Haunted, my dear friend and colleague, Michelle Desrochers.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Carrie Lynn.
Hello. So, Michelle, right? I think that as we get older, we have so few surprises that happen in life that, when those little things come in the mail, I'm okay about waiting because, yeah. We just get so few, even babies. Like everybody finds out what they're having beforehand. So few people wait to see.
I couldn't wait. I had to know right away, all three of them.
Really?
Oh my God. I'll tell you something, because I'm going to put it out there. Literally, I have without being graphic, exceptional bladder control. So they had students at the X-ray clinic when I was pregnant with my first child, my daughter, and they would give me videotape of the ultrasound. If I let the students practice on me, I could sit there I could just lay there for 3-4 hours. No problem with a full bladder. So
that's first baby, though.
That's first baby. Oh yeah.
Was it still like that with number 3?
No, they had no more students. Nothing changed with me. I would have done it. I would have loved, miles of video. Because the expensive part about ultrasounds is taking the images, but video was easy for them to do. I would just bring a tape and they would just keep going. So, of course, my sons always figured Andrea, my daughter, was the favorite because she had all that stuff. I try. So,
I don't know. I just had my one girl. That's crazy.
I know. So I had to know. I am far too impatient with anything. I need to know what is going on with everything at all times if it pertains to my life.
So do you not feel that the universe just keeps smacking you with, you don't have control over this, Michelle? So this is what
sometimes it's like with a giant tuna. It's really, but I resist, and we know how that all works. When you resist the universe,
right?
It messes you up a little bit. And yes, but I did know every single time. I was persistent.
So my daughter will be 27 in August, and I was pregnant and delivering in New Brunswick with her, and they didn't tell us. They weren't allowed to tell us then.
Right. Right.
30 ultrasounds with both boys. Oh,
See, Laura Lee gets it.
hello, Heidi. Thank you for being here. I didn't pregnant well. I just said it was parasites, that I had parasites, and it was not, there was nothing nice about it.
Some good self-esteem for you kidlets. Parasites, seriously.
Okay, so I mean, this is not exactly where I thought we were gonna roll,
Right.
but like the conversation started, so we're just gonna keep rolling with it. Hi, Deb. Thanks for being here. Oh my gosh, we're on the TV. Well, listen, if you guys, we are now on, you can watch us on Roku, we are on YouTube, Facebook, and we are now also on Amazon. So if you ask Alexa,
Yeah,
she will play us.
you can listen to it there. That one's the audio. We could just say, Alexa, United Public Radio. Bam! Everything's right there.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
be any
amazing.
easier. You don't even have to go hunting.
So I tried it out.
Oh, and did it work?
Yeah, it works.
Good.
It works. My son was quite impressed.
Because our grand poobah just drills this into my head and goes, you make sure you just let everybody know. I was like, all right. But I don't have it, Alexa, so I can't try it.
Yeah. Yeah. My
Nor
son
do
was,
I have Roku. I have to rely on everybody else who's got it all to let me know what's going on.
I don't have Roku.
Yeah.
I don't believe I have Roku either, but it's still UFO paranormal, right?
Yes. Well, or United Public Radio. There's 2 accounts there. So you can go, United Public Radio, and you can go UFO Paranormal Radio, and it will come up with both. So see, it depends how the brain is working. So which way you want to go?
My
you
brain's
have
not
options.
really working. I said it's been a bad brain day all day.
Yeah. So tell me about it.
Jenny, that's funny.
That is funny.
Boyfriend's daughter is named Alexa. She does not love when we ask her to do stuff. Laura Lee, I feel that I'm too much of a conspiracy theorist. Alexa sits in a drawer unplugged.
Yeah, that's why I don't have things like that.
So, yeah.
I'm one of those weirdos that covers up like my computer screen right where the camera's supposed to be. I do all that. I make sure everything is clicked off, and
but then I bought a sound machine, and it hooks up to the Wi-Fi, which is hooked up to everything else. And I'm like, I don't know why I bother covering everything up. But if they want to listen to me snoring every night, then have
at her. Like, what is wrong with this woman?
Even the dogs leave the room.
I know. That's what I say.
The dogs don't stay.
Why not? Why not? Have fun with it.
Right. Okay. We were you started talking about not weird. Yeah, it's Laura Lee saying that she does the same. Hi, Fiona. When we're talking about the babies, when you were pregnant with your babies, did you have like weird, was the paranormal stuff heightened when you were pregnant? Did you find it was heightened, or have connect in differently in a more heightened way? I had very intense experiences with the other side when I was pregnant.
I found the same. I had this idea when I decided to have children, and I said, I want to cut off that whole part of my life, because I knew what it was like being intuitive when I was little, and some things I was okay with and some things scared the crap out of me. Then I found out I was also an experiencer, and I was kind of like, maybe I had it all wrong. But anyway, I wanted to turn it off, and then having the children, I didn't realize that, I couldn't just shut it off with them. They were all very aware. But being pregnant, I think I tried to shut so much off at that point and concentrate on just being regular with my child, me, my baby, and but things were happening a lot that didn't really go away. But I believe in mindset, so the more I pushed it out, the less it seemed to happen, or the less I paid attention. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the less we pay attention, the more intense some of the experiences will happen until we wake back up again?
Yes, especially after I had my kids. It was just like, look, man, universe. Okay, just look, this isn't going to be a thing. But I found myself being able to, I would reach out more, I find, because as a mom, you just have different requests. And I would always put it out there and say, look, if my children need me at any point, make me aware all the time. I never went to bed without saying, make me aware. And I cannot tell you how many experiences I had. One perfect experience was my middle son, who one time, I mean, he was probably about 2.5, 3, and he knew. I mean, he would just climb out of his crib. It was ridiculous. But this is a kid who could scale the side of a darn door and hang off the top of the door sill, and I'm having a
Right.
stroke, you know. And anyway, I would be woken up. Sometimes one night I was just jolted in a sitting position, and I heard my name going, Michelle, really loud. And I looked out into the hallway, and he was wandering towards the stairs because he was a bit of a sleepwalker. And I would just bolt over and gently turn him around. But I mean, something sat me up. So it does listen. The universe listens. Your guides listen. And this went on for like, well, I mean, it would still go on if I still did it, I'm sure, because I'm one of those parents. But you know,
That's so funny.
it was phenomenal, and they were having all kinds of experiences. And
Yeah.
my youngest son terrified of Grace, and I could never figure it out. Then I found out later in life that they were all experiencers.
So I think that I'm still discovering. We're still discovering.
Yes.
And certainly definitely going gently down that road, because as I awaken, they're going to remember things as well too. So
Yes.
doing it very gently, for sure.
Not that, Mom. By the way,
Yeah. Well, I kind of am
Yeah.
sometimes too, though, because I just get irritated and want people to like, okay, let's go.
Right.
Let's get on with it.
Yes.
Because the faster we get on with it. But I think
as fast as you can get over it.
yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, you can only avoid peeling the Band-Aid back for so long, and then you're going to get smacked with it. So you get
Yeah,
that
the big tuna comes
fish.
the size of a darn car, makes a point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really tough, but that was his biggest fear. He would go every night before bed. I mean, it was kind of sad. I mean, he was like 4, 5 and upward, and he would just go around making sure all the doors and windows were locked. We're up on the second floor, and I'm thinking, that's okay. I didn't understand quite. I'm like, what did you watch? Crazy episode of Creepy Canada or something? Because there was an episode with this really tall white in there and it looked menacing. And I remember him seeing it, and I was just like, wow. And then I went on to hear so many other experiences from them. So things were heightened in the house. There was no getting away from it as much as I wanted to shut it down. And my middle son would say things like, do you not see all these people in the house? I'm thinking, if I was haunted, I would know. And it wasn't. He was just seeing dimensionally. He could just, yeah. And he was just seeing people who were still alive, and he was just tapping in, and I'd be just like, stop doing that stuff, because oh crud, I don't know what to do with it. I'm just, they're so different than my abilities.
I had that. So my youngest was very, very, very connected. And where I was originally going to go with this was my first experience with Mother Mary was during delivery.
Wow.
Like during delivery, she was right there. And it was such a profound experience for me during that time period. And then because his heart rate, like he stopped, it was a whole lot, that experience. But he was that kid that was always connected to the other side in a very big way, very early, that I didn't understand either. He used to put his hand up like this, like put his elbow up over his eyes. And we have pictures. I have these beautiful pictures. Hi, Howie. Thanks for being here. that he was actually seeing spirits, and I didn't
Yes.
understand until he was vocal. And then it made me feel guilty because I knew what my abilities were, that I wasn't in that
Do you
space.
feel like you should have known?
For sure. For
Yes.
sure. Because I
Yeah.
used to cry when I was pregnant with him, going, he's going to only know me when I cry, because I had, like
Yes.
that whole sort of
Yes.
happening. So I
Yes. Yes.
find, like, once I stepped into doing it full time, there was more ease when I understood if I was taking accountability of who I am authentically, then everything ran smoothly in the house. So stepping into the intuitive stuff, stepping into all of this, gave them permission just to be who they were as well too, which was connecting with the other side.
Mhm.
Gavin's experiences, he would say, like, he would do healing on my back, and I would ask him, how do you know what to do with this? And he'd roll his little eyes and go, I give it to Archangel Michael. Duh. All righty, dude.
It's like, all right. All right. What do you say to that?
I don't know, but that was like, how come you chose me? What am I supposed to do with that?
I know, but isn't it wonderful? Because it's like they can teach you. You know, you
Well,
think
this
that
is
you
it.
know all of this stuff, and out of the mouths of babes, as they say, because they experience things so differently because they're so pure at that age. Your energy is just so pure. And in some cases, you know, if it's something that they're really concentrating on, they really are extra focused
Yeah.
on it. And it's just incredible. It's an incredible journey to watch them evolve. I remember my one son saying to me out of the blue, he was about 8, and he goes, Mom, I said, yes, love. He goes, are you coming back? And I'm just like, what? Where? Where am I going and when am I coming? What, you know? And he
Yeah.
goes, no, no. He goes, are you coming back? I'm like, do you mean after I die? He goes, yes. Like I'm like I'm the silly one. He goes, yes. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
well, sorry. It's not a conversation I thought I'd be having with my 8-year-old.
Right?
And I said, you know, honey, I am just pretty tired from the inside out. I don't think I really want to come back. And he goes, well, I would really like to come back. I'm like, oh, that's good for you. He goes, but I don't want to come back without you. I said, all right, I guess so.
But the thing is, part of that,
Yeah.
we're making that decision out of tired ego, right? Not that we live in ego, but that tired
Right.
human
Right.
self. And when we're in spirit, we're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, let's
sure,
go.
sign me
Count me in. Yeah.
up.
But he knew it at 8, you know. At my age at the time, I was like, nah, I don't think so. But then he goes, you've been to Egypt? I said, yes. I said, it was beautiful. He goes, tell me about it. I went, all right. So we talked about it. And he goes, I think you should take me to Egypt one day. And I said, I'll tell you what, when you're older, if you really want to go to Egypt, I will take you. We ended up in France and Scotland, and we didn't know
Yeah.
that we didn't think it was Egypt, you know, but you know,
But
he knew then.
those were still not chasing, revisiting, remembering
Yeah.
past lives and heritage and moving
Yes.
forward. So, for those experiences that we were pushing away, do you think that it eventually leads us to remembering all of that stuff, like that bigger collective of our lineage, so that we can bring more forward?
Yeah, 100%, because I feel there's always that part of us that wonders, you know, we're like, we don't feel like we belong here or in this time, in this place. There's always something that nags at us and we never really know what it is. Whether we're picking up on imprinting from our own ancestry or are we picking up past life stuff, whatever the case may be, I've always found myself traveling to places that I felt very connected to. And once I've been there, I've always said I've left a piece of myself behind and brought a piece of that place back with me. I'm very connected. I don't just travel to places that I don't have a connection to. And when I get there, I'm like, now I know why I feel like I should be here. But I mean, I believe also that the dead speak, obviously. And it was my grandfather, who'd been deceased for almost 30 years at the time, who got me on my path to part of my lineage And the readings are always hysterical. I mean, I'd have friends that would just message, say, "Hey, who's this guy?" I'm going, "I don't know, my grandfather." Well, this is what he's saying. I'm like, oh, he would leave things on my PVR. And I would say, "Did you leave that on the PVR?" And he goes, "Well, now you get it." What? Where's the sarcasm coming from? It was like, okay, yes. But it wasn't until I started going further along that I realized this is what I was supposed to see. It was the easiest way,
Right.
to get my attention. And it really did put me on one heck of a path. And I still find that. And it's it's like you go even further back. I mean, you've
Yeah.
read with me many times. It's just like, okay, you need to do this, and your grandfather's saying this. I'm like, oh, and so you need to go to France. I'm going to Romania first. No, you need to go to France. I'll get to France, you know. Like, don't go here in the wintertime. It'll be too hard to get into this area. I am not freaking Indiana Jones, Grandpa. I cannot do that. And then when I went to the location in the summer, I realized, okay, yes, this would never work in the winter. I found myself actually going there. Yeah, this would never work in the winter.
That's so
you know,
funny.
it's
I
great though.
and I love it, Heidi, that that you're honoring that space and allowing those conversations to happen, or acknowledging that she's bringing up those past lives. And I agree with you, Laura Lee, about they're closer to the other side, and have that remembrance as well too. And I feel for those parents um, that may resist wanting to have their own awakening. These kiddos come for that purpose, right? They come to help push that remembering.
Mm.
I know my oldest talked about past lives all the time. Talked about being friends with his brother in heaven, and they decided that I would be their mom, and
Aw.
they decided they would be brothers in this lifetime. Like, he talked all about that kind of stuff. It was crazy. Like,
Mhm.
I don't
But
know.
I think it's beautiful that you acknowledge it, and you have awareness. And do you feel how like it changes you when you have them say to you, no, this time you're going to be our mom, for example, or last time I was this and you were this. And it's kind
Yeah,
of like you realize how you travel around together in your
yeah.
soul circles and role play. It's fascinating.
I found more of a struggle with my daughter for sure.
Mm,
Like, because she wanted to mom, and she wanted to parent, and she wanted to be those different roles, right?
yes,
And
yes.
I'm
And
like, we're cutting energetic cords right now, because in this lifetime, I am the mother.
I know it's hard because you do this. That's my daughter and I. We were opposite in another life, and she'll flat out. She says to me, "You have to cut the apron strings." I'm just like, "Okay," and then I'll get a call. You around? I need a ride over here. And blah blah blah. I'm just like, what about those apron string things?
I know, it's crazy.
Was I supposed to do that? Maybe you're the one that's supposed to do it. She was my mom in another life.
So do you feel that the kids kind of go back into that sleepwalking state until, something else triggers them to reawaken in their own point in time? So they have a lesson or a contract with us to help us wake up, and then they're okay to kind of close off until it's their turn to wake up again?
I think it depends on the child. I mean, my boys are totally different than my daughter. I think because my daughter was my mother in another life, it's really hard. Like we butt heads, and she's very wise. She'll say things, and I'll look at her and say, that makes a lot of sense. Like I will listen to what she has to say and eat more with ease than her listening to me. I don't ever like to be that person. So, well, I don't know. I did say, but she will acknowledge. Oh, I should have listened to you. My daughter's
That's the worst.
33. Just like, well, I'm
It's
really glad, because I don't want to be that guy. It's like, well, I did maybe mention. I just look at her and go. "Mm." So I think depending on the personality, she's still finding her own way, and gets very when they get frustrated, they don't want to maybe lean on the spirituality side of thing.
Well, I think when we're frustrated, it's really hard for us. I know even for myself, when I get frustrated, there's a big reminder. Like I said, like when we were waiting to get the show started, I was so frustrated. I was having a day. I was so grateful Laura Lee was around. I did this blah, 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 and then our internet went out. We were checking bell outages. There was no bell outages in our area, and then I was like, "We're just gonna dial it in. We're just gonna dial it in." And then
You're projecting.
Mm.
Psychokinesis, you're messing up your own electronics.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Oh.
And then it kicked in, and it's just I think that the universe gives us so many reminders about being awake and how much we are co-creating our experience in every single moment. We are co-creating our experience in every single moment, whether we want to admit it or not.
Well, I think the old saying, you get out of life what you put into it. So if you're projecting out a certain vibration, you're going to have that return to you.
In whatever the vibration.
Not always great.
No, it's not always great, but it's so much more magical when you understand your responsibility to yourself and the people around you, and taking ownership of what you're co-creating, right? And how quickly, like, you can get in that flow and what that feels like, and then when it goes sideways, how quickly you can get back on track. And
I agree.
It's a lot of work, though. People don't necessarily want to do the raw, gritty stuff.
I don't think that some people don't acknowledge it. They don't acknowledge what's going on around them. I think we're kept so busy in life, whether it's through work or, you go to work, you pick up the kids, you end up, you have dance class, soccer, homework. Some people work second jobs. Some people are just so hyper busy. I'm always hyper busy, and I know better. And sometimes things will happen, and I'll just sit there and say, I should have seen that coming. It's like a Mack truck heading my way. It's like, oh, this one's going to hurt. And I should have known better, right? And so, but for people who really don't understand the whole cycle, it's really hard.
Do you feel everyone is meant to remember in this lifetime?
I do. And I do think that we are meant to remember. I think the universe leaves a lot of signs, such as synchronicities, that you see signs all the time, but people fail to recognize the signs. I think we get a lot of hints as well. I think it's a cruel joke that so many people are we born not being allowed to remember? Or do you think, this is a question for you, or do you think that because children are intuitive, they see everything, they know they're little psychics, much like animals, Do you think, at what age do you think it just goes away and we have no recollection? And why aren't we allowed to come in with everything?
My feeling is the more experiences that children have, with other children who are not remembering a word that's not part of their in-house conversations and that it shuts down in order to fit in.
See? So aside from the fact,
I think it's always there, so you tuck it back.
I agree with that. I mean, we live in a physical place, so we lean our 5 physical senses, and everything else sort of goes to the wayside. But I often hear people say it's a cruel joke that we get thrown back into this life, not being able to remember our past lives. But then you think about it, it's like, well, if we're here to fix something or help evolve somebody else, you don't want to repeat that stuff. So yes, it would be nice to remember, but I think that takes away from the lesson.
I have always used the words, even when I was doing energetic healing for myself, in this lifetime, past lifetime, future lifetime, alternate realities and alternate dimensions, and thank you very much. Like, I've always just like, we are blanking in every direction, right. Or like into that dimension where like I have a partner who does this for me.
Right.
Because I'm sure in the multiverse there is this
Oh,
happening somewhere, right? Like,
good old multiverse. Yes. I think it's a lot of it is reframing as well. You know, I don't know. I do a lot of planetary energy work and things like that, and working with other individuals who do this sort of thing. And it's interesting to see, like, people don't realize vibration frequency, how real it is. We will go into any area around the world. You can, you tap into it and you
mhm.
can realign some of the energy, whether it's ley lines, vortices, vortexes, portals, whether it's just clearing the heaviness of time, maybe history, just starting fresh. Then you tap into it like a month later or a couple weeks later, and you see things flowing nicely, and you can see the people in the area, and you feel the energy is so uplifting. It just makes you realize how people, how we affect one another, and
Oh yeah.
how the planet, we so are connected with the planet and all of life on the planet, the trees, the mountains, even like the stone will hold on to memory as well, and it's been known to hold on to sound and
Mhm.
all kinds of things. They're phenomenal. I love spending time not just in forests, but in the mountains as well. And this is why cathedrals, a lot are made of stone, because they will hold on to all that music and that energy. It's fantastic. But can you imagine, like, you have a lot of, I say, unhappy people, broken people, or angry people, or you're in a bad relationship, for example, and you start, you're arguing with somebody all the time. I feel it's so important to cleanse your space in one form
Oh
or another, whatever works for you, because then you walk into that room again, let's say an hour later, wonder why maybe you're feeling a little bit foul. It's like, well, you just had a major blowout about, an hour ago. You may want to just find a way to cleanse that and ground yourself, because it is all about vibration and frequency.
and and the balance of it, the reciprocity of it. If we're taking something, then what are we giving back into it?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so
Right.
that it doesn't get unbalanced at the same time.
Right.
When I
It's
ran
true.
the kids groups, when like the intuitive heart-centered kids groups, when my kids were small, we would take a ball of yarn, and the little kiddos would hold the end and then toss the ball to somebody else. They would hold a piece and toss it, and they would just do it until everybody had one corner, and it would
Mhm.
be this beautiful mosaic. And then I would say, now you drop yours, now you drop yours, and look at
Right.
how it's all falling apart. Like, we're all needed, right? We're all needed to
Right.
hold
It's
our
true.
piece. But I do feel more and more people are recognizing their light and holding that pillar in the
Mhm.
space that they are in.
Mhm. That's very important. Very important.
Yeah, cleansing, sound healing frequencies for sure. Just even clapping your hands, and sometimes yelling the F bomb in your car.
Sometimes it feels good. Yeah.
It does feel good, and it
Yes.
shifts the energy and everything else along with it.
I mean, you should be driving with me. You'll hear me flop that word around quite a bit.
In nature. Yeah, salty words are sometimes my best friends.
Right.
Salty words are sometimes salty
Just
words are.
expelling that energy, just,
So
projecting.
when we were talking about like past lives and stuff too,
Mhm.
I do you not find people overly obsessed about it, and then they're not focused on what they're doing in this moment, again redirecting and not wanting to be aware in this moment? Like,
I'll t
everybody wants to be Cleopatra.
Yeah. Well, don't we
I just
all?
don't get it.
But she
No,
had it pretty rough, just saying.
I
So,
know, if they
I
really
don't know. Why would you want
understood.
to do that? Right. I
Yeah,
think people do get hyper focused
hyper focused, yes.
on past lives, and part of all that is the whole DNA. Maybe related to this famous person or this
Yeah.
famous person, and but when you find out, and then they find out, wait a minute, one company was lying, and then it got bought out, and now it's all the information being collected. I always looked at it as a collective information. I dealt with with, genetic labs long before any of this was a thing. But I'll tell you, finding out that I had certain past lives, I sort of found myself missing an individual in that life. And
Oh,
there was a double-edged sword for me. And
I
one example
understand.
was the longing, and you feel like you're mourning all over again. And it's a terrible feeling, and of just like, oh my gosh, like I'm missing this person, and you can't have this person in this life. This person chose not to return. You need to go on and move forward. But in the same respect, I would have spirits come through saying, don't you remember me from this time? I'm sorry, I don't. So now I feel like maybe I'm hurting somebody else or disappointing somebody else.
Oh, yes.
So it's great fun to go down that road, but at what cost to you, your family, your life? You can't have that life. It's gone.
I um Hi Tony, thanks for being here. Michelle Plummer, I've sorry, let's just go. Michelle, I appreciate that. I love that you trust your intuition, and I bet you that it will contribute to some of my lessons, I'm sure, because your intuition's always bang on. When it comes to past lives, I have like never had a big interest in knowing. I've always understood that some of it's carried forward with me in this lifetime, influences, things I'm scared of, or things I'm drawn to, pieces of all of that. And I said it last week on the show, actually, too. Like, I just assumed that I was an a-hole. I assumed that I was tall. I assumed that I was bad. I was good. I've been male. Like, because we have to experience duality at some way, right? Like,
I agree with you on that.
in
I
order
think
to help other people with the lessons, right? If we're meant to be a teacher in a different lifetime, to be the teacher and the students, we're having to see from all different perspectives. I assume.
Well, you can't. No, I think you're correct. I don't think you can advise on something if you haven't experienced in one way or another, whether you were a healer or a laborer or whatever the case may be. I mean, we all like to think that, oh yes, hello, the queen. It's great, but I don't think I'd really want that life either. But I do think that somehow, because we're still the same essence, and if our spirit, if we have traits about our spirit, for example, warrior, I've always had this warrior mentality, but I also know it comes from lineage as well. So what are we picking up on with that? Is it actual DNA through ancestry, or is it something that is embedded within our essence from past lives? Like, I think sometimes maybe we confuse the two.
You think maybe sometimes?
I am being general, but I think it happens a lot. How about that? Yeah.
I feel like I'm an a-hole sometimes, because people will say to me, I had this reading and they said I've had so many past lives and I was like connected here and here and here, and I go, that's awesome. I don't know how to respond to it. And I know that I get super socially awkward. That's brilliant. Or the same as spirit guides or naming them, or how many. People have told me like I have 19 angels around me all the time. I'm like, that's fabulous. But like, I just don't see that concept as like, maybe you did in that moment when you had that.
Right. Yeah.
Exchange.
Yeah.
But it's always ebbing and flowing depending on what your current experience is and what you're doing next, right? Like, it's
Every time you come to a crossword and you make a decision, everything changes.
it is not going to stay in that one fixed position.
No, it is very difficult, because knowing a past life that I had, and it was made known to me that this individual would come forward, and did, in a visitation, and it was so real that I could see myself on the outside looking in to the connection of the two of us standing side by side. I woke up in tears, and I realized at that point, and I think so did this individual, who
Mm.
just went, all he basically said was, "Don't forget me." I'm like, "Oh, God, never, never." And what do you mean? Like, where are you going again? But I realized at that point that it was bad for me.
Yeah.
And I
So
couldn't let go of that tie.
So that's interesting. I had a very similar experience with a fellow that I was seeing, and it was an instant memory. And one evening, so we woke up one morning, and we had both had the same memory during our dream time at the same night,
Sounds
and
like dream weaving a bit.
it was, and we
Yeah.
both woke up remembering that the daughter that we had in that past lifetime is my son here, my one
Ooh,
son, who
yeah.
is everything like that person to a T. Musical,
Say that's
so,
crazy.
similar facial features,
Mhm.
very, very similar, and just not meant to be together in this lifetime. And you do grieve that. You
You
do
do.
grieve it. But I didn't look for it, and it was weird how it came forward out of the blue like that.
Well, it's interesting to me because this person was still here, and it's like here in the physical. So you have that. There's always that opportunity, like
Yeah, I think that's what Lori was saying.
so.
Lori Lee was saying everyone wants a twin flame relationship too, right?
Sure.
They're looking for it, but
Sure.
it's not.
Sometimes you wait your whole life for that person. Sometimes you miss the boat because you don't recognize it. Sometimes it's not meant to be.
Or
And
not understanding
sometimes,
what a twin flame is, having
yeah,
a romanticized version in your head.
right. Right. And soulmates are not always what you think. They're not always your
Teacher.
companion. Sometimes you're your best friend. Sometimes it's just someone passing through that affects you so
Yeah.
profoundly or assists you in one way. Could be your dog.
Right?
I'm saying I had one little chihuahua. She's passed out, but I'm sure that dog thought she was human. But that was my little soulmate. All 2 pounds of her.
So I had never thought about people like I kind of poo-pooed it until I learned a little bit more about people reincarnating as animals.
Yes.
I poo-pooed
Yes.
it.
I know.
Apologize to anybody if I gave you the look.
Right. It's like,
My look.
It
I
still looks
spoke
like,
before my words. But
sure.
I
Sure.
I am learning to say, like, from my
Right.
experience to this point, this is the only place I can give, any
Yes.
comments
Yes.
about it. But
But
definitely have
it's
learned
free
more.
will, right? You can
Yeah,
come
and
back as
dimensional.
anything you want.
I didn't understand that either, right? Like you
Mhm.
can pop off somewhere dimensionally or other planet as well too.
That's right. You can. You can. You can reincarnate into an entire other's, race or
Species.
species, other planets. Well, you have to be nice to your extraterrestrial friends. I know.
Do you
I've
think
had contact with really loving ETs and some not so much, but you really feel like there's a kinship.
could some of the ETs be our future selves coming back to check in on us?
There is a theory that they are. And a lot of researchers just shrug it off. And then there are those, it's 50-50 on the fence. I don't really know if it's them in the future coming back because there's a lot of when you start getting into time travel and things like that, like there's so many complications. But yeah, you look at Nikola Tesla who mastered it. It's time travel. So I don't know. I just know that the ones that I've had communication with, for the most part, there have been one or two who have just been so nurturing and just so comforting. Then you have those who just watch you and lurk, and you're just like, God, get out of my room.
So no different than any other, like humans, like humans.
Right?
Like there's
Yeah. Well,
some that
I
don't
mean,
feel comfy in our personal space. They're breathing down your back in the grocery aisle, and you're asking them to like back up.
this is my space. You're in it.
Yes.
I know. I know. I don't know. But no, it is like that. I think that's part of the whole thing with people who are abductees. They're just like, well, I wake up and they're there in my space. I'm like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's just like you're lurking. Get out. Like it's just intrusion.
It is.
Let's say you were sitting, on a beach somewhere, and then you look and you see this incredible individual. Sometimes, it's like having angelic experiences. Sometimes they come in human form as well, or little
Have you
fur
had
babies with no wings, so you just don't know, but they're really little angels.
Oh, yeah. Have you had many angel experiences?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had great
It's
angelic
powerful.
experiences.
It's
They
helping.
are.
Be careful if you're asking for Archangel Mike, like any of those archangels, or like it's powerhouse and it's life
They
altering.
are.
You need to be ready for it.
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, just in working, they've been incredible experiences. But just, I've always had certain angelics that I like to deal with, and not just through work, but just in everyday life. And
Mhm.
I truly believe that they have come forward on so many levels. It's awesome, because those are the ones I would speak to. Make me aware if my children need me. That they do.
So,
The littlest things, they move you out of the way. When you're getting too close to something that you shouldn't be, moving people out of your way. It's
mm,
not always your guides. Sometimes you just have these incredible beings, and you just catch a glimpse of a wisp. Do I believe they're all winged beings? I think that's a religious sort of projection that many of us, or people of faith, but would recognize. But I believe it's they come in many forms.
oh, yeah, I've had that experience because I had one that felt kind of scary at the beginning,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, this isn't working."
Right.
This isn't working for me. I'm holding
Yeah.
my breath, and so if you hold your breath, you're not relaxing, and you can't do the work when you're like that, right? So I
Yes.
please reshape.
You're like that little child. Hold my breath and not talk till I get my way.
Yeah,
I know.
I need to not feel scared by this how you're presenting, and then it shifted
Hmm.
into
Right.
presented in a different way.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
At
I
the time, I
believe.
didn't feel like I was being like a temper tantrum child. I thought I was
No,
being
no,
quite
I'm holding my breath.
proactive.
I know. I know. I know. I think there are many incredible beings out there that do a lot of interesting. They assist you on so many different levels. I've had great and
Dimensionally and
angelic.
alternate realities.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, and I believe that you get the good, you get the bad. I've had experiences with horrific entities. Some
So,
people will be demonic and they look at them as demonic. Sometimes people will look at them as just being some other race of being that's coming in dimensionally. I mean, we're part of a multiverse. It's not black and white. We have so many layers of dimensions. And when you think about it, it's like listening to a radio station. You can only listen to one at a time on average. It's the same idea. I mean, once in a while you might pick up on a cross frequency, but on an average, you're going to tackle one at a time.
Jen is asking, what do you think about sleep paralysis being spirit? I've had many types of people during sleep paralysis episodes. One was a soldier standing up in full uniform.
I've done entire segments on sleep paralysis because if you're within the field of the paranormal, it'll be called the hag syndrome. Something malevolent sitting on your chest, giving you that oppressed feeling. In ufology, they'll tell you it is affiliated with abduction. And ironically, in the paranormal and the ET world, the smell of sulfur it works for both. So people say I smelled sulfur during this extraterrestrial experience. And so you see, like they really do blend. I've done shows on the connections between the paranormal and ET contact as well. So definitely a thing. Then there are logical reasons for it also. It's happened to me twice in my entire life. The first time it happened was in the middle. No, actually, it was late at night, and I woke up. My second one was in the middle of the day. And I was just sort of lying down, just trying to regroup a little bit and not sleeping. And it totally happened. And the first time, it just woke me up out of a dead sleep. My eyes opened and I'm looking, I couldn't move. But they say if you can even move one little digit a little bit, you'll bring yourself out of it. And I had a clock on that projected onto the ceiling, and I knew it was over. I was like that for over a minute, and I just looked at it, and I, in my mind, I'm like, "There's not enough room in here for both of us, and I'm not the one leaving." I just got really mad.
The
And,
warrior spirit that you've brought forward.
oh yeah, right. I'm gonna kick all your asses. But anyway, I forced myself with everything that I had, which is why I truly believe with the mindset, it works. I forced myself to sit up, and then it totally I came out of it. But there was a scientist, I think in Montreal actually, who was researching sleep paralysis. And with, because they say this is a natural thing for people of certain ages and such. And he had a feeling of an alien abduction when he was researching, and he went to bed. It happened to him, and he swore he saw grays, and it changed him. So as far as spirits and stuff, yeah, I completely believe that we're, freezing the physical, I don't think is really that hard. But I
Do you-
believe we are powerful enough to do it to ourselves as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And I feel it's the fear part, right? In
Yes.
remembering all the bits and pieces why we tuck it away and close it up, and we try not to go back
I
there.
went after it. I
Mm.
went after it because it had never happened to me before. I mean,
Oh, well,
being
I would have gone after it too.
yeah.
Because I don't. Mm-mm.
No, I
I mean,
wanted to
not
know
wanting
more
to
about it.
remember. Lots
Right.
of people don't want to remember anything, so they just tuck all
It's
their.
frightening, and you
Yeah.
feel so vulnerable. The second time, like I said, when it happened, it was middle of the day, and I had been researching paranormal stuff. I mean, I've always worked more malevolent things because I had the mindset to do it. I could just do it, and I spent a lot of time working with families, educating families. Not so much, hey, this is my thing. It just seemed to be something I was drawn to do.
Do you not
But
feel that's lineage too, though?
100%. Well,
It's
my lineage. So yes, a part of it. I find it easy to do. I don't have a
so
problem with it. So, but that's when it happened to me. I was working with a family in a really bad way. And then it happened in the middle of the day. And it was literally within a couple of hours of my delving into it. So,
one of the things, because this has been a week, it's actually been a couple of weeks, to be honest with you,
mhm.
and I just needed tonight to not be overly intense for sure. So I was so grateful that you agreed to come on,
I
and then
love
I
it.
was overthinking it a little bit, as I do with every week. And this was a question that I wrote, which I think kind of like where we're at. I wrote like, we lose our fear. The more that we do this work and the more experiences have, we really don't get, like, I don't feel scared of things.
No,
Um,
no,
but we
same.
have respect for it. Do you know what I mean?
You
I
have to. You have to be
yeah,
humble.
yes, very much so. So that being said, have you ever come across something dimensional or cryptid that you were potentially leery of at the beginning, but after having the connection, we're like, okay, that wasn't, I maneuvered through that not so badly. And is there one that you haven't connected with yet, but know of that you just don't want to? That would be a no-go. Try to avoid it.
Oh boy. I've had things materialize in front of me. And I didn't really feel overly uncomfortable. I'm a weirdo like that. I have no explanation for it because I was just like a teenager at the time going, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
There you are. I think the thing that would unnerve me, I have this thing about wolf people. People call or dog men. Not so sure.
That's so funny. I wrote Dog Man down with a question.
Say because I love wolves, but they're really highly aggressive, and anything I've read about them, They're really highly aggressive. And I'm
Highly.
not so sure I would want to be on the receiving end of that. Like we have local legends not far from here about that, and where people have come forward and said, "Oh no, I got chased by one." And I'm like, I've had people send me pictures, and I'm just like, see, right there, I think I would have an issue. I have worked with families who have experienced them, and they're really again aggressive. But when it comes to what the part where you say, the more you do it, like I think back in the day, I went from being a little bit cheeky to
Mm.
being like forcefully humbled.
Mm.
And then I came through again and went, you know what? I don't really give an F, and I'm in charge. I mean, I've had things come into my space when I'm ready to go to a location. I had something doing the tapping thing on my bedside table one afternoon, and I'm in the ensuite and I could hear it, and I just won't give it to them. So I walked through, didn't think twice about it, grabbed my purse, and I said, "I'll see you in an hour, mister." I grabbed my purse and kept going. I think that's the best I could come up with. But you know what? I just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm such a believer in mind over matter and mindset, and how
Agree.
we perceive things and how we deal with it. And I truly believe we are more in control than we give ourselves credit for.
And extending that out, Laura Lee is a host here on the UPRN network. She has the Angel Rock on Monday evenings and the Thing at the Foot of the Bed with David Hansel on Thursday evenings.
Mm-hmm.
So please, take a listen to the archive. She's saying the Black Eyed Kids are her thing.
Yeah, see, they're wiggy as well.
And she's saying giants as well too. So
I'd be okay with giants, I
I
think.
think I would be too.
As long as they weren't trying to eat me, because there are stories of those who are just giants, and there's stories that if you go out into like European areas like Sardinia, where they were really big.
So, but if we believe that mindset is a big part of things, if we hold on to fear, then the universe is not necessarily recognizing the fear part, just recognizing that we're putting energy into it. So they're just responding to the vibration and the energy. They're not necessarily responding
and it's what
to the
they want. If there's any truth to the fact that negative energy or fear, if they feed from that energy, like a psychic vampire sort of thing, if they feed from that energy, then they would try to rile you up, and we just keep falling into it.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100% on that. Skinwalkers, yeah.
It's a whole other
No, it's true. They're pretty aggressive as well. We've come across them through, RVing and stuff. Like they're around.
Heidi's sharing, I was cleansing one time and it kept going out. Then I swear knocked out of my head. I ended up throwing water on it. I kept saying out loud, I have all night.
Exactly. I can go 100. How many you want to go? Right.
Yes. And I think that's what part of it is, that we've had different lifetimes. For sure, we've had different lifetimes in dealing with this. And it's almost like harnessing and remembering that we have all of these ancestors who had these experiences that are with us. So we don't have to feel alone when we're doing it. And I think that's part of where people hang on to the fear, right? Is they feel they're doing this alone, and we're not.
No, I think it's important to realize that we have generations of ancestors who stand behind us, and sometimes we forget who we are and where we come from. With my ancestry, I just sit back and I'm just like, I often will hear someone speak to me and say, remember who you are. Like, I'm an ass kicker, that's right. And I'm just going to go out and walk the 2-pound chihuahua that has me wrapped around its little paw. So you see, it doesn't always work that way. You see a grandchild, you're just like, oh.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You don't look like the big, fierce person people think you far is there's just certain little beings out there that just totally melt you, you know.
Oh, I think I actually wrote down something about the dogs too. This is so funny. Actually, you know what I was thinking about? Well, because Laura Lee and I were talking earlier too, when I was having my little meltdown.
Not good, Carrie Lynn.
Oh, do you know what? Do you know what it is? Is that I'm leading up to holidays. So I
You're
try to
tired.
take, yes. So I know that's what it is. I know,
Yes.
like, I lied to myself all week this week. I just have one client. I just have one client. I just have one client. And then I would just get through each one and then I was done my day. And then I did it
Right.
again. I just have one. So now
I could do this. I could do this.
yes, totally, totally just psyching myself into it. And then I have one more event on Sunday night and then I'm on my holidays for a little bit and
Very
I
nice.
can balance out.
Well, now you could just kind of like ease off and just, you know, you're having a good time. And
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. But I was thinking, and it was just silliness. Like sometimes silly questions are fun too, like and having just silly conversations, not necessarily having to be, but please, folks in the chat, if you guys have questions, shout them out and we will bring them up and address them best that we can.
I love open mic because anything goes. We talk about anything.
So I was going to ask you about snacks, sweet or salty, in your jammies, cuddled up with Wayne, watching what we do in the shadows, you and your pups. Do you grab sweet or salty? What's the go-to snack?
Sweet or salty? Both. I have to have both.
Do
If
you
I have
really?
chocolate, I want a chip too.
Me
Yes.
too.
I'm
Yeah,
a
it has to be
weird,
sweet. I
weird
mean, even if
person.
I make popcorn, I'll stick Smarties in the bag. at the same
Yes,
time.
thank you. Yes, yes, yes. You have to have a balance, yin and yang. Sweet and salty. I'm salty enough. I need something sweet.
So, but you're probably not. Do you not? I feel because the more that we do this work, the more we have to have those boundaries with people, right? So I have to remind myself when I'm saying no to something that is just good practice, or it's good practice having these boundaries, and it's good practice having these sort of like uncomfortable conversations, right? That we have to have with people as well too, having uncomfortable conversations. But it can be exhausting at the same time. And I'm not a nag, and neither are you. and I'm not really salty, and either are you.
I'm pretty salty.
No,
No, I'm not. I'm
do what
not.
we do.
Yeah, I think it's boundaries are important, I think, for anything in life or anyone. But I find in our field of work that it's been in my experiences, and I'm sure it's the same with you because you delve so deep into people's lives. But for me, when I'm helping people who feel they are in detrimental danger, they've got things going on that, I mean, let's face it, that you don't know what to do with it. It's like I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to self-diagnose myself. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not going to try to fix my own car, you know. So there are things that people have basic understanding of life, and when it's something outside the box, like what do we do with this? So you become a bit of a I guess a life jacket, you know. They hang on. They're afraid to let go. They need, you know, they need to know you're there. I've been on call for people for the last 2 decades, like almost 24/7. Like I did that for a long time. I had to set boundaries with myself and just say, not even so much with other people. I had to set boundaries with myself and say, I cannot be there all the time to be that you know, that support all the time.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
hard.
harder for me than it was for them.
Agreed. I agree 100%. And remembering that we're getting in the way of somebody else's awareness and awakening by shielding them. So we're preventing part of their journey from unfolding as well too.
But then how do you not? Like, I cannot stand by and watch something, you know, terrorize
Right.
somebody either. I mean, if
you
you're
and I
given
have
the
that.
ability to fix it, you fix it. But in the same respect, sometimes what do you do with somebody who's projecting out that energy themselves and they think it's something
Right.
else? Like,
So it's like setting it up like a hospital triage, right?
yes, pretty much.
Children and animals.
First, I know it's true. It's true. Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. Then elderly and
Prioritizing.
yes, yes, because not everything gets through. I remember Wayne telling me a story when he was at when we had like the manor, and I hadn't sold the house in Burlington yet, and he was calling and calling and calling. Shit was going down. He didn't know, like, I mean, he's talked about this story, on television and stuff like that. And he kept trying to call me. My phone never rang. I never got messages. And it wasn't until the next morning, all this bing, 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 bing. I'm like, what the heck happened? And I messaged. He'd been up all night and told me what happened. I was just like, I will be right there. And I had to come in and assess what was going on. And something really nasty came through, wreaked some havoc. But he listened when I talk, and he just took charge. But the feeling of unnervousness didn't go away. Like, it stayed with him. He goes, I've never experienced anything like this. And it's like,
But how great for him to have his voice and be pushed to use it and see that it worked at the same time.
oh,
Right?
he just did. He yelled at it. He goes, "Gah!" Like he just lost his
Yeah.
mind. Because I lost my mind. Like, well,
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
what needs to happen,
Heidi is just asking, have either of you had experiences with huge orbs, possibly elementals? Last Feb, I saw one next to the house rotating. I see them in the 100-year-old trees recently. One went in the front door. Oh, yeah. You go first.
I actually had an elderly friend of mine who started off as someone who needed help. And it was approached to me by his assistant, who said he's not from here. And if he dies, the world will lose a gift. I kind of went, okay. I'm one of the, sure. There's a lot of gifted people out here. Working with him over the course of the last 5 years, I realized he's not from here. And he's done planetary stuff and he basically, what convinced me before I get to the orb thing was I was working with a family at the time, and he goes, and it was from Dover. And he goes, what problem are you having with Dover? I never mentioned that. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you know how to do this. Why are you struggling? I'm like, oh, it's this ley line thing, see? And I'm trying to jump around it because he's an elderly guy. He's been doing this a long time. He goes, I'll move the line. Well, you can do that. He goes, yeah, give me a minute. And a minute, no less. I'm just going, oh, okay. Sure. He did. It's just like a fraction of a push, just barely a nudge. And he goes, you'll find what you're looking for in the northeast corner. There it was. And the client messaged me right away and said, I don't know what just happened, but this thing is outside. She's also very gifted. She goes, this thing is just got popped outside and it is not very happy. Somebody bagged this thing, right? Just like, so he got my attention. Taught me how to work with elementals. And, they apparently will go down to the roots of the trees at a certain time of year, and then they come back up. And he calls them divas. And I would laugh. Well, why do you call them divas? He goes, because they are. They're temperamental little things. And they'll get very annoyed, and they'll get really peeved off and cause all kinds of havoc, like start fires, like do all kinds of things depending on the element. But when we realized that they wanted the trees to be happy, like if we have, for example, things lurking around in the forest, bad energy, it would make them mad. But if you go in, if you do light work and you light up the trees from the roots up, all of a sudden everything is tickety-boo and people are happy. Well, they're happy. And he had a bad elemental problem. And then because he couldn't project light. So in doing so, his entire property got transformed and he never had a problem with them again. I don't know. Is there something to it? I don't have elemental problems at all. And
I don't have elemental problems either.
Yeah, working with them after that with a new technique, never had issues.
And orbs.
I think orbs are funny things. Orbs can be many logical things. Orbs can be spirits. Orbs have been seen around Bigfoot and certain cryptids. Orbs have been seen around extraterrestrials and UFOs. Orbs are, I believe, just forms of energy that I believe we can project them really.
So I was going to ask, do you not feel that
Yes.
we could project them as well
Yes.
too?
Yes. So I think somehow they're just a manifestation of frequency, maybe.
Interesting. If you guys are just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. Today's guest is Michelle Desrochers, our network manager, co-producer, co-host of the Outer Realm. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I love being here. It's just always so much fun sitting across from you.
Heidi is just sharing. I've always thought the bright orbs in the back were fairies. I have gifted to the land. And Heidi, that's brilliant because I believe that that's so important, right? If it's that give and take, and I find elementals for sure show up where there's stewardship of the land happening and the resources when there's that respect is there.
Well, think about what they are.
Yeah.
They are of the environment in one form or another. And I think respect always has to be given. And I
Because they
mean,
can be nasty.
oh, they can be nasty. They would cause all kinds of issues for my elderly friend and people I've worked with. I'm just like, okay, we'll just get a shaman in there to deal with it. And it just never seemed to work for very long. And I realized that we had to work on a different level, that we couldn't just go in on a physical level and change things. We had to go in energy form to connect with them, at least in the cases that I have come across. Doesn't mean it's always the fact, but it seems to work the best and the fastest.
That makes so much. I had a weird experience, powerful experience with elementals, with fairies, and I was driving in Guelph, and this elemental popped up and hit me right in my heart space
Ooh.
and dragged me. And I had to pull over because I started crying. But I went down a tree. She took me down this tree, and she's like, "You need to remember home."
Ah.
So she gave me her name, and then I knew who I was working with, and then it was a totally different thing. But I never thought about it because I'm having this aha moment as we're talking. So I appreciate that I learn from you all the time.
Oh, thank you. Same. Same.
About lighting up the roots from the roots up.
Yes.
Like I understood what I needed to do, but I was never shown that part. So that makes so much more sense. Putting all
Well,
this.
it's the heart of the tree. It's the heart of the tree, and so connected to the earth. It's what gives it life.
Well, and I knew because I've always learned, when people do that meditation with see yourself as a tree and the roots coming down of the bottom feet going into earth.
Yeah.
But I've always saw somebody else said spiral. Heidi, I think that you said spiral. Yeah, spiral up a tree. So I was shown in how I teach people to ground really quickly is envision that spiral coming out of the bottom of your foot going down and then back up. And it's like that instant where we're there.
See, I do something similar. I tell people to ground by sitting and once you're used to it, you can do it lying down any way you want, but sitting down with your feet flat on the ground, you picture the roots going through your crown chakra and anchoring out your feet to the ground. When it works, you go to get up and you can't at first.
Yes.
Right?
So it's the same
And
thing.
then you have your white spiral that goes around. Then I go a step further with a projection of light and reflection. I put I say envision mirrors, but it's really reflection of light that goes outward. This way, negativity will usually see itself and repel.
Right.
And we have grounded people working like this, and they're just like, I don't know what it is. I says, it gets uncomfortable because sometimes people draw away from you and you start to lose people in your life or friends. And you're like, well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I like this technique. I'm like, it's just people seeing their own negativity, maybe for that moment. Maybe they're having a bad day. It's not you.
Yeah.
But when you really master it, again, it's frequency, vibration, light. It's all that is. But
Yeah.
I say mirrors because people can't work with reflection. They don't understand the reflection part, but they
Bubble.
understand mirrors.
Yeah, they
Bubble.
do. I like
Right.
bubble up, shields up, rubber
Bubble
ball,
up.
slime, let
Yeah.
it be.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Mirrors
it.
facing out, and yeah, yeah, mirrors facing out even, but for sure. And it is a practice, and that's where, reminding people it's a practice. So
Mhm.
you may not do it every day, but then eventually you will, and you'll recognize when you're off
Many times
and you
too,
come
right?
back to it.
Yes. If you find you're just having a really bad day, you just picture it for a moment. It only takes a moment, and you can bring anybody in your bubble that you want and
Yeah,
ground them and keep them safe too. It's what I love about it. And you could just, after a while, just close your eyes for just a split moment, and you've got the whole process happening, and it really makes you feel better.
yeah. I agree, Heidi. And how doing it in public and doing that bubble is how I teach everybody. Like, if you're wanting to connect in with your spirit guides, you do exactly what you just expressed and shared, and then ask them to step into that bubble and connect their heart space to yours and yours to theirs. And you'll start to understand that you don't need to have labels for everything, freaking
That's
people. You do
that's
not need
right.
to have labels. You'll just
That's right.
know because of the vibration
That's right. That's right.
what you're
It's just
tapping
just
into.
do it. Just do it.
Hmm.
It can be done with a mere thought. It's just so easy.
Hmm.
And that's what's so good about it because it becomes second nature.
Hmm. And grounding underneath, like, your house, like grounding the energy within a house, and learning that you can extend and do that as well too.
Mhm. Yes. No,
Jen,
I think it's important, especially if you have quartz or running water under the house. In Canada, you get a lot of that.
uh, true.
Important. Right.
Jackie is just sharing, I'm so grateful to hearing about offering light to the roots of the trees. That seems so loving. I love my trees and so grateful for their support.
Mhm. Hug a tree.
And then give something to the tree.
That's
If you're,
right.
yeah, if you're,
But you can exchange your energy. You're giving
exactly,
of yourself and they're giving to you.
yeah,
Trees are intelligent beings that
yeah,
communicate via the roots. You want to keep the roots healthy.
yeah. Michelle is saying ground each meditation always.
Yes, I'm a firm believer in grounding before you meditate. I just think because we're opening ourselves up that we should protect ourselves as well. But I also believe that people, we have baggage. Life is hard for a lot of people, and grounding keeps keeps you from projecting your energy as much, and it keeps people from putting their energy onto you or taking your energy. They don't mean to. We just do. If you have somebody who's angry or sad, and if you're empathic too, you're going to be affected by a lot of that. And grounding will help you with that. You'll always hear me say, ground, ground, ground. You may have
But
techniques that work better.
yeah, not everyone understands what that means either, right?
Mhm. Protect your energy.
Yeah.
That's what grounding does.
And
Earthing.
when my kids were small, I used to draw like a stick figure inside a bubble on a post-it note. And,
Very nice.
and I stuck it on the bathroom mirror so that when they were brushing their teeth, they needed to remember to, like, shields up, rubber bubble with slime, what color is
That's
your bubble, make
brilliant.
an egg. And then
Yeah.
when they would get home, I had a sticky note by the door with a stick figure, like with waves, like it looked like waves on each side. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, slough her off. Like, whatever attached, we're just gonna make sure it doesn't come in the house. Stomp your
Yes.
feet, shake it off. We're just gonna
Yeah, brush
brush
it
it.
off, shake your hair out.
Start
Yeah.
young.
It's just energy. It's easy to move around. I love that. Sticky notes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The land here is full of quartz, lots of energy. James is in Washington. He's got his cabin in the mountain with the Sasquatch that live all behind him.
See, I love that.
Mhm.
James, I'm sure your life is never boring.
No, he is a wizard.
I love that.
A whiz.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I do believe that you can coexist nicely with them. There are people who, there's a group of researchers who have them. They've been, working with a certain group for a few years, and to the point where they have been able to communicate with English words after over a period of time. And there's recordings, and you hear a Sasquatch coming out and verbalizing, saying, Mike. And he goes, Hi, it's Mike. And then you're just, Hi, Mike. Like it's very slow. I believe anything is possible. There's a lot of stories out there where people, whistleblowers, have talked about seeing them in underground bases, working. But people have seen them around UFOs, where you see Bigfoot. If you look, you'll see orbs, and sometimes you'll see crafts. So I don't know. This is just another theory that's bouncing around out there from eyewitnesses and such. So we're dealing with a degree of intelligence here.
So I believe that too. Could they also be like multiverse as well too, or alternate realities? So there's this species that's been hiding out here, but also one in this alternate reality, and this one as well.
Yeah, full on quantum. In fact, I had a guest come on my show twice. I'm happy to connect you with, and he wrote a book called Quantum Bigfoot.
Really?
Yes. And how I found him is I was watching Alaska Killer Bigfoot, because I had one of the guys from on the show on my show.
Okay.
I can connect you.
Okay.
Anyway, he came on, and he was on the show. Scared the bejesus out of the guys. Were kind of like, what? It was how they get into your head, how they use frequency.
So I believe that.
Head. I'll connect you. I'll send you emails, and you can tell them that you spoke with Michelle at the Outer Realm, and bring them on, because like the one guy I had on, he was a guide. He was there to keep them safe. What he does is he takes out tours to Alaska and protects you from grizzly bears. And he was hired to keep the group safe. And he goes, the stuff I experienced and what I thought, man, there was definitely something out there.
Yeah. Because that was a fascinating, everything about that. And did they not send out like frequencies as well too at that?
Yeah.
They projected out sound.
Yes. This guy. I will connect you. Seriously, he's wonderful. He's done the show twice, because he's got a couple of different books, and then I can connect you up with Kyle, who we had on the show, and he talks very openly about what goes on or what went on while he was filming the show. I think there's a lot of different there's a lot of different theories with them, but I also believe that there's a if they can work with frequency and mess with you through frequency, then there's definitely something going on. And there's people out there, researchers, who believe that they are a few seconds ahead of us. That's why you don't ever catch them, and they go through portals, which I believe they do.
So I'm starting to believe that a little bit more, like having a portal as well too. And do you think
just got to RV them? You'll see.
Well, okay, that was my question, Michelle. Can we remote view through them?
You can remote view them. When I had spoken to my elderly friend who had worked with them and other beings, he said you need permission to do it from them. And I said, that's interesting. And then all he said was, I'll get back to you in a few days. I was like, okay. Again, it's one of those okay moments, right? And then I got a phone call, and he goes, I've acquired permission from you. And all he did was give us coordinates. He goes, tell me what you see. We're just kind of like, went in on the coordinates, RV, and kind of went, well, shit, there's a freaking Bigfoot right there. And there was a portal. And they were aware of us. That's the thing. They were aware of us, and they just didn't even flinch because we had permission. We just didn't sneak in. And the only time, I mean, if you happen to come across them through RVing, that's one thing. But a lot of times, there were pathways that would get blocked through energy, things like that. And it would just be like, clean this up.
So
all right.
I have a gentleman, I have two, Richie B. So Banter with Richie B is his podcast. So he's coming on with his co-host, Wojo.
I love it.
Steven. So the two of them are coming on, and his property he has made his first cast. He's got all kinds of stuff going on his property that's very magical. So he just real time takes everybody out and has these like things happening and is having more and more interaction. And that's something that he has said, that he believes that, he was drawn there, invited by them, and they are having this agreement because they both given permission. So
yes,
getting the evidence that he is, and it's just changed his life. And he's a riot. So guys, August 16th.
I see. I love that because it shows you that it can be done. I mean, you look at certain parts of the United States, it's illegal to kill them. You would be charged with murder if you killed one. And you know that when Mount St. Helens erupted, that there were military helicopters seen carrying them out on ropes. Yeah, yeah. There were 2 or 3 of them, helicopters that went by, and they had these slumped over.
Do I have to deep dive to find those videos?
Yeah, I'm just saying. And interestingly enough, there was somebody who was in my chat room one night. We were talking about that. She goes, "Oh yeah, I worked in the, I guess, emergency field, 911, whatever the case was. I can't remember during that time. And yeah, there was talk of that." I was like, "See, thank you for that validation."
Well, and I like that. I mean, we're saving everybody.
Yes.
All creatures.
Yes.
All here.
Yes. Well, those, I guess, were pretty important, but it's strongly believed that they are fully aware that they exist and that there's a relationship. The military governments, they're parts of California where there are bases and where Bigfoot roam, where you can't even enter that part of the forest or the national park. So they're aware.
Yeah, there's so many in the indigenous culture that do not believe that they are telepathic, don't want to acknowledge or have that conversation at all.
Which is really surprising because there are so many of the indigenous cultures that have great oral history of extraterrestrials. How do we know this isn't just like a crypto-terrestrial or from someplace else? Like, I don't know, but not all experiences are great. You look at Alaska Killer Bigfoot, and there was a Bigfoot in that area. The reason they went back there is because this thing was murdering people back in the day.
The whole town.
Yeah.
The whole town had to go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then when
they also believe
fire happened.
Yeah, see? But they also believe there was something more to it than all of that. So
yeah, I agree with that, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the telekinesis. I've always felt that Bigfoot would have telekinesis and telepathy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They work with this frequency and projection of energy. Really, they're brilliant. So what caused one? I mean, you have a killer among how many that are peaceful? I'll tell you,
So is it just rogue one?
Maybe. I mean, what happened? Did somebody come in? Because there was history of the Spaniards coming in through that area. Like, there was a lot of stuff that went on. So what did they murder? Did they murder them? And then, they retain that memory. So now it's like, no, none of this is acceptable. I don't know. But I'll tell you, I mean, they are everywhere. They're everywhere. My son has a property out in, East Ontario, and they had a caretaker staying on the property. And after I had people on this show talking about Bigfoot and what not to do, and apparently what you don't do is go around with pots and pans going, bah, 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 trying to scare. They look at that as a sign of war. I found out that night. So I messaged the caretaker of the property, like, okay, whatever you do, don't go out there banging pots and pans around. And he goes, oh, it spooked him because he'd be out, he'd hear at 4 or 5 in the morning, tree tapping and pitch black. Because I don't know, nobody's cutting wood.
I would be like, "Do you want a snack?"
I know, right? What a stack. Oh, yeah. He was doing like, he was half indigenous. So he was doing like tobacco peace offerings and all kinds of things. It wigged him out to the point where he couldn't stay.
Interesting. So
Yes.
Jen is just sharing with I follow a psychic who asked for permission to remote view Bigfoot, and they invited her to their home, tunnels in the ground. They had babies and acted like any other family. Wonderful of her to share. And
Yes.
that's what I've heard. Like, and schools. Like, I had another guest on, and I'm hoping she's connecting me with someone else as well too, where like the Bigfoot had like their school teaching them about structures and teaching them about
There's a lot more to it than what people think, and I think we need to make, if you're going to come across one, you might want to consider, communicating telepathically and just saying, I'm okay with this,
and being respectful. They were probably here before us.
Hands down. Do you know how many tunnel systems we have? You can remote view and see all that. Do you know how many tunnel systems there are? We have cave systems in some of our forests and such that have never been detected. They go really deep. There are a lot of people that, they truly believe that we do have an inner earth community, like a whole other ecosystem, everything. Heck, go to Cambodia. You can go into a cave and see a whole other ecosystem. It's there. It's massive. I know.
I know. My brain.
Cambodia, Carrie Lynn. We'll go to Cambodia.
I know.
My leave with us. We're off.
18
grab Amelia along the way.
Yes.
I know. It's all there.
Do you know what? Sometimes I feel like I'm a lazy psychic medium because I'm not. I know that I'm not. I think because I'm doing so much. So again, like the time that I have is so minimal, and that I don't do all of that stuff, though I would love to. So now I need to make more time for that. But I would totally, yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and it's stuff that people don't always think about doing. I've always been given downloads. I've always been given information. I will be presented with a situation, and I just at that moment somehow I know what needs to be done. I don't know how.
But do you need to know how? Like, do you need to know the whys or hows? I think we just get it, and then that's part of the trust factor that gives us more.
Yeah, but aren't you curious? There have been times where I'm like, I don't need to in the moment. I don't care. It's there. I instinctively know what I have to do. But sometimes I think about it. I'm just like, I'd really like to know where the hell that comes from.
I'm supposed to know, they're going to let me know. And I'm so busy doing so many other things.
Yes.
I'm done when I'm done.
Right. That's true.
Jen is saying, yes, Michelle, they did communicate with her and said some strange things I can't remember.
See, I love that. I love that. I mean,
sure.
But I'll tell you one thing I did see while we're on the topic of different type of beings. For those who think that dire wolves might be a thing. Now, on my property in Burlington, I was doing dishes, and I look up, and it was March, so there was snow on the ground. And I'm like, what the hell is that in the backyard? Because I had close to a couple of acres, surrounded by a ravine, and this something massive was chasing a rabbit. All I see is this rabbit going, go, rabbit, go, before I saw what was coming. And it ran into one of the outbuildings and, into the fenced area. All of a sudden, I see this humongous. I'm thinking, is that a freaking dog? That is too big to be a dog. And I realized it was a wolf. I grew up north around timber wolves, so I know wolves, right? And they're big, tall, lanky things. And we have regular wolves or smaller. This thing came in, put the brakes on, to stop from running into the side of one of the outbuildings, haunched up, and then came down and put its chest out and looked. And I was like, phone's in the other room. I'm a handful of dish soap going, oh, again, the researcher and he's going, I need a phone. But there's a huge picture window. And I'm going, if I move, this thing's gone. And that's exactly what happened. I figure I'm going to move real close to get closer to the back to the kitchen window. And I looked and it swung around and it was gone. So Wayne came over that day and he took measurements. He went out to the snow because it was a beautiful day and just packed down. It was the size of his hand.
Crazy.
It was the size of his hand. I have those pictures. He put his hand next to the print. And I'm just thinking, that is insane. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that I'm ready to, like, my kids are older. Like, I don't have to be responsible. I'm like single parent with them forever. I'm ready for more of the crazy stuff to happen now.
Right.
I don't think I could have done it before. I mean, not that I didn't have crazy things before, but definitely not like that.
It's different, I think, when your kids are smaller too. You go on a high alert, like I'll kill you all. Come into my house. But everybody leaves the nest, and then all of a sudden you can relax a little bit, or your stress levels on a whole other level with them. Because you can't protect them the same way. They don't live with you, right? So it's like, damn it. But I'll tell you, like, I am all about. I love high strangeness. I mean, I really love high strangeness. But that whole area was known for, like, as in Canada, we don't call them, dogmen per se, but more like they're called wolf people. They look a little bit different. And I've got all kinds of stories, even from people I know who have seen them. And really not very far, like a stone's throw away from the property.
Wow.
They were there, and it was a friend of my son's. He goes, oh, he and his dad were driving one night, and he said they just walked across the street, and then they went down on all fours and then got up on 2 feet and walked away. I'm like, see, right there, that is way too close for comfort.
I think it's because it's the reaction time. Like, we wouldn't be able to witchy woo into that faster than they could be aggressive. Do you know what I mean? I don't know the reaction time. Do you know what I mean?
I totally get that. And reaction time when you're in the middle of that holy crap moment, you're kind of like,
yeah. So you can't, like, that's where maybe the leery factor comes in. But I don't know. There's very little that I'm scared of. I think definitely had a lot of weird experiences with the kids when they were smaller and as teenagers for sure, but more allowing myself to have those opportunities and tapping in differently now and remembering things now that they're older, for sure.
I think it's great because now you get to share in their experiences as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The next generation.
I know our grandbabies.
I know. Mine one day was looking at me and he kept going like this. And I'm like, what? What do you see? What do you see? And ended up being a spirit man who just wandered in on the property. And he was looking at me. He's kind of going like that. And I'm just like, oh, be coming near the grandbaby. That's going to be it. I'll kill you twice.
Right?
Yeah. But
my daughter's like, grab the salt. She's just like
grab the salt. Little Dean Winchester.
Yep.
Little Lily Winchester.
I swear that I keep saying they need to redo that whole show and let me, and in a female version, and let
that could be fun.
Oh yeah, are you kidding?
I'm
a baconator girl. Give me my hamburger and pie.
And pie.
No problem.
I'm binge watching it again. Supernatural. I am. So terrible. Back to season 1. It just makes me laugh though, but you realize how much you miss.
It does, but it's still fun too. I right, Laura Lee. I think we all love supernatural.
That's true.
Apparently, there's supernatural tarot cards too, or oracle cards. Supernatural tarot cards.
What don't they have supernatural now? They went 15 seasons
for a reason.
Oh, I know. I know. I
It's
love it. I love it.
Crowley. I think Crowley was my favorite character, to be honest with you, though.
Oh, he was always a riot.
Yeah.
Scott, those guys just worked him over so many times. Just left him like, what just happened?
Oh, Lordy, you have you have them? The tarot.
Of course you would. I want what they do in the shadow cards.
I have, oh my goodness. Contessa Martin, you need to help me because I'm having a moment. Miss Ives.
Miss Ives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, Contessa, because I'm having a brain fart and I'm Vulcan mind. Yes, thank you. I was Vulcan mind melding with you. If you felt that little tickle at the back of your head, that was me. Sorry. Penny Dreadful. Yes, Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, I love that show.
Penny Dreadful. So like her cards, I have those cards and they're actually quite magical when you're using them. It's really fun. Jen, I understand that my oldest son is 31, no baby, but still a baby at the same time.
It's true. It's true.
I know. Best advice, somebody from either that you read or that was given to you, that was articulated to you when you were stepping into doing this full time, from somebody in this field. Best advice.
Somebody that I've read?
Or read. Like
I don't do readings at all. But
no.
Picking up stuff.
Book, if you best piece of advice
books
that you received, I would say you received when you were stepping into doing this more full time, and what
the best advice
that was given to you. What piece of advice have you hung on to?
My grandfather, actually, long before I ever got into this field, was very, very gifted. The whole family was. And he always said, you can feel fear, never show it. Always keep your head straight. He goes, and always be firm. Polite, but be firm. He said, you are completely in control. I was, I don't know, 12.
Wow.
Never thought in my mind to get here, but I'll tell you something. Those are words that have always stayed with me, because I was always having experiences at that time, which is why he was having the conversation with me. And I got myself out of, having things going on within my home.
Right.
And that was words from him. So Lorraine Warren was also someone who said something to me that was impactful. Love them, hate them, agree with them, don't agree with them. I'm just going based on something she said to me in a conversation when I sat across from her. And she said, dear, she says, there's no such thing as experts. We're all students. And that always stayed with me as well. I'm like, no, it's true. She said, learn something new every day. And I reiterate that. I don't know enough about everything that they've done. I've never followed every case. I've never, like most people, I think we knew Amityville and Enfield was as good as it got. I can tell you that her family has always treated me with a lot of respect, and but I just don't follow it all, especially anymore. I don't follow it all. It's just like you evolved out of it. I did. I was just saying last night, when I had Morgan Knudsen on, who's just lovely. And I said, I don't have as many shows on the paranormal anymore. Not because I'm not interested, but I've spent 2 decades in the field. I have researched everything I've wanted to research. I still work with people on a regular basis. But I think we all get to that point when you realize, for me, there's a saying that says, when you realize you're an experiencer and that paranormal is only a part of being an experiencer, you kind of, it takes a little bit of a backseat, and you realize just how much bigger the picture is becoming. And now I've see, you realize you're into quantum physics, you realize you are into multiple dimensions,
Yeah.
and oh my God, it's just multiverses, and you really just start to look beyond it. So last night for me was going back to my roots a bit, and you know where we ended up? Talking about consciousness. Right over.
Yeah.
Much bigger.
I don't feel like we can. I feel that we're not allowed to know everything until after we die. I think that pieces are always going to be held back so we can have that
Mhm.
when we transition, when we lose the meat suit.
I agree with you. I think we have to, well, we have to awaken. If we haven't, we have to find that one thing that can awaken us. Sometimes it's just listening to an interview like this, or seeing something, an image or a word or a song, whatever the case may be. We have to have that awareness, and it's part of our evolution. We have to evolve. Then we get to, all of a sudden, we break free beyond this while we're still in it.
And the hope that, for many people, it's having to have trauma or an experience that makes them stop in their tracks, right? So
Yes.
sometimes it has to happen repeatedly, but it's nicer if you could do it gently.
Yeah.
I'm
Gentle
always
is
I'm
nice.
always about with grace and ease, and thank you very much. With grace and ease.
Gentle is nice. I like gentle. Yes.
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 With grace and ease, for sure.
Yes.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's always so much fun.
Where can people find you? Got anything coming up? Doing anything?
Well,
There's a new
MichelleDesrochers.com.
show too coming on before me next week, folks.
Oh, yes. Father Sean Witherington's paranormal ministry. He's been on for a few years, and we snagged him. And you guys will know him from Eli Roth's Legion of Exorcists. And he's just such a nice guy. He's
Yeah.
just a sweet person, and he's just very gentle as well. So he's going to be on the hour before you,
Yeah.
5 p.m. Eastern.
5 p.m. Father Sean, yes. And
Yes.
he agreed to come on Spirit Switchboard, so he'll be on September 20th as well too. So
Excellent.
that's brilliant. So you guys tune in at 5 p.m. Eastern next week with Father Sean. That would be great as well too. And
Yes.
next week, you guys had a little snippet of him at the beginning. I have Ed Odell from the Rift Nation, the Orion Effect coming on. So, and I'm sorry, I kind of hijacked that with Father Sean. MichelleDesrochers.com.
That's okay. Yeah. Or tune in on Wednesday and Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the Outer Realm with myself and my bubbly little compadre, Amelia Pisano. And yeah, there's miles and miles of archives to check out as well. And great guests. I mean, we're pretty much booked into the end of the year, with a few little spots open. We'll have some favorites coming back, and we're bringing back some of the original people. Because when our large YouTube got popped off, I lost about 150 archives.
Wow.
And yeah, so
Wow.
we're bringing back some favorites. And one of those favorites is my friend Laura DiDio, who was I guess, worked for the newscasting people for the Amityville Horror when that story broke and the Ronald DeFeo murders happened. And she knew Ronald DeFeo, and she was there for the Hans Holzer thing. She was there for the whole seance thing that went on. She still knows the Let's Boys, and she's got a lot of insight into it. So she's going to come back and talk about that too in September. So we're bringing back some personal favorites, and we've got a lot of new faces as well.
That's exciting. I'll be tuning in.
Woohoo! I know. I love it. She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
There's so many actually great shows, and the network has expanded to like 40 different shows and hosts.
Yeah, we're up there.
And in different genres too, not all high strangeness and paranormal either.
Nope. During the day, you're looking at, business. We're looking at authors. Fika with Vicky is all interviewing different types of authors. We've got psychology. the show before yours right now at 3 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Yana Greenberg. And there's a lot. And the day shows are going to start filling up too. So there's something for everybody. There's something you guys want to see, or you think you have something to contribute, and maybe you can do an hour here and there, and you want to talk about it. Well, just message me. Michelle Desrochers. Michelle Desrochers contact at gmail.com. Nice and easy.
But the high strangeness is best. I kind of
agree. It is. I love it. I love it too. I'm highly strange.
Right? Yeah. So if anyone is interested, it is just carrieLynnShellon.com. You guys can check out where I'm going to be, what events are coming up. I will be in Thunder Bay, Northern Ontario in October. And I have a few tickets left for the event that I'm doing in St. Thomas at the Princess Ave Playhouse. It's an old church that's a theater. Mm-hmm. It is the third time that I've been there, and I love it. It's just got that vibe, when you go in.
That's St. Thomas too, though. It's crazy. I've done work in St. Thomas. It's high vibrations.
It is. And right along the railroad tracks too, right? So having the railroad tracks there is also something extra on top of it.
Yes. Well, there's a big history of Underground Railroad there too.
Yes, I love it. And when I get there, I feel like I'm doing speed dating with dead folks. It's like
I bet you are. I bet you are.
It's really hard to keep up.
Well, yay, Carolyn's in the house.
I think that's what happens, though, is they see somebody that's wanting to connect in and is able to, right? So I think they just get excited about being seen and heard, and that's important.
Exactly. You really are a switchboard. Spirit switchboard operator.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Well, thanks so much, everybody that participated in the chat tonight. Thanks for being here. You guys help make the show what it is. And I'm always so grateful and humbled when you guys hang out and participate. Thank you so very much. And thank you to the United Public Radio Network. Thank you to Joe Montaldo and to you, Michelle. So the UFO Paranormal Radio and the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. Good night, everybody.